Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody that's going to be tuning into this. Um, this is my dear sister and friend, Candice Co. We've been doing our Sunday synchronicities now, trying to be somewhat consistent with it. We'll probably be pausing in and out. We decided not to go live just because we've got other things going on, like children that could be coming out and playing at any point in time. So we might be pausing in and out, but we're just going to share some synchronicities that we've been seeing, feeling, and experiencing, and just kind of play a little bit with that and go from there. So we're going to talk about the energies, I think, right, that we're feeling, the energies that we've been kind of moving through. We're going to talk a little bit about the gene key that we're in right now. Well, Candice is going to talk about that because I don't know anything about that. And we're going to talk maybe a little bit about choice points, hallways, songs. I don't know where you want to start. Do you want to start with I had been doing a recording earlier about piano, but maybe I'll come into that later. Do you want to share your dad's dream first, or where do you want to start, Candice?
Yeah. We'll just recap a little bit of what we were talking about before we went on, and we're like, let's just go. Yeah. So dream recall has been just through the roof lately, at least for my crew here with my children, myself, and my parents apparently. So I went to go see my parents yesterday, and my dad was talking about his wild dream that he had. And he was a musical composer, I guess, and someone had come to him specifically because he wrote these songs. And in the dream, he had actually written the song Stairway to Heaven. And so he wrote Stairway to Heaven, and he wrote another song. And the person was like, I really like that, but I don't want either of them. I want you to put them together. I want you to recompose them together as if they're one song. And I felt like that was so symbolic as to what we've all been sort of working with, and a theme that's been coming through. It's like we have these choice points, the fork in the road, if you will. And one is like our past self, the patterns and the habits and the ways that we made our choices before. And then another choice point would be perhaps another version of ourselves that might even be, okay, I'm just in flow right now, might even be another identity that we've created for ourselves to have space from our past version. Like we might have just totally reinvented ourselves, have been trying that out. Like maybe we completely lost touch with all of our old friends and everything and made all new ones. But then now we've come to a point where that's not even authentic. Maybe it was really authentic for a little while.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the past started to come back.
Yeah.
The past version of yourself that you just set aside completely and was like, I'm done with that. All of a sudden you're like, wait, I'm not done with that. So then you're like putting them together. You're like retrieving from what is still relevant from what needs reflection. And then you're also looking at this and going, even from what I've created now, there's stuff that I'll leave, there's stuff that I'll keep. And like, it's my dad's dream. It's weaving the songs together, weaving the songs together, weaving the realities together of the past. And maybe the present, I don't even know how to call it. It's almost like the present past that is passing as you're weaving those together into the future.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pause just for a second. I'm just laughing because before you came on, I had been in flow and I deleted the recording and I'm like, why did I do that? It's perfect because it was all about the piano and the keys. And then Candice had said, oh, I wasn't going to do the gene key. And then I looked and essentially I had been in flow about the piano and I had been shown when I was asking about the energy, this goes right in line with what you're talking about. When I kind of was just like, all right, what's the energy in the collective right now? What should I be focusing and sharing with everybody today that would be helpful? And I was shown the analogy of me as an example sitting at a piano. And in front of me playing this piano, which I don't play the piano. I would love to, but I don't, not in this lifetime. Anyways, I'm playing at the piano and I was shown this sheet of music. And was shown myself taking the sheet of music and just throwing it away off to the wayside. And then sitting at the piano, literally as I was playing it, it was like as I was playing the keys, there was a new song that was being written on that piano. Okay. But I was saying in my recording, which again, I should have just kept it going in flow. I was basically saying that we still have that old song. It's not that it's gone. It's just that we're not playing it anymore. Therefore, the tune that we were tuned to, that we were attuned to playing in that key, in those notes, in that tune and tonology is still available. And it's still part of our access point. It's still a data point. It's still a choice point that we had, that we made, that brought us to this space right now. And what happens is now we're rewriting or we're writing a new song. But this new song doesn't have the same, we're not the same container. We're not in the same vessel. We're not in the same, and I was saying as within, so without. So we're brand new people from one perspective, right? So now, but we still have to pay attention. Is the other big message that was coming through is practice so we can hear what's out of tune, what no longer fits, and what no longer wishes to go into our new song. So we can combine these songs and create a brand new symphony. But what I was hearing was it's the symphony in me. It's not, I wasn't shown playing in a band. I wasn't shown, I was shown me at the piano. And that may be part of a bigger song, but I have to tune into my own song. And the other is going to play naturally around me. It's all going to fall into that place if I really tune in to make sure that I'm on point and that I'm in tune with my keys. Now, the keys to me was a recognition of pattern recognition, recognizing, oh, this is what I use. Oh, it's off key. Oh, but I can combine that now and add it and make it more, I don't know, what is it when you combine, I think the Grateful Dead had like two piano players or two drummers or something like that, right? Like, anyways, my point is, we have to be in tune with ourselves to recognize that we have this opportunity to combine old, new, and create brand new from that space, even though does that make sense? I mean, I just had to share. It was just funny that you came on and you're like, oh, my dad wrote a song, was talking about writing Stairway to Heaven last night. I was like, well, that's what I was being shown was a piano and writing a song.
Yeah. As you said, opportunity, the tune really stuck out in that word. Like opportunity, like tuning yourself to your own opportunity. And then it's also operetta, like your own your opportune moment to shine.
Yeah.
And as you were saying, Stairway to Heaven, I remembered I'm sitting at the top of a stairway right now in a stairwell. And that just felt symbolic as I woke up this morning, realizing, I have a full house. I've got nowhere that I have my own space. Where can I get my own space? And it was like in the hallway, which has a lot of symbology for me and us. So a hallway, a pathway. I'm literally sitting in a passageway between two rooms. And I could have sat at the bottom of the stairs or the top. and I chose to sit at the top, which gives you a different feeling. It gives a different vantage point. I'm in the entrance way to the upper room, but I can see
Yeah.
the big.
Yeah.
So yeah, listening to you talk about the piano, I'm thinking about the white and the black, you know, and the contrast between that. And then you think of the major and the minor and the scales,
Yep.
and, you know, the harmonic, the undertones, the overtones. So I wanted to look up what are the 7 degrees of scale, and way above my musical theory capacity here. But it's talking about the 1st degree, the tonic, the 2nd degree, the supertonic, the 3rd degree, the mediant, the 4th degree, the subdominant, the 5th degree, the dominant, the 6th degree, the submediant, and the 7th degree, the leading note or the leading tone. So it just reminds me of like the degrees of self, the degrees of sound, the degrees of self attunement, self knowing, knowing your pitch, knowing your sound, knowing when you're in key, when you're off key, playing with your within your own symphony or your own harmonic. And it just, you know, it's another way of knowing yourself. And it's like, this is like a playful analogy, bringing the journey of self-knowing into, you know, into playful analogies as we do.
You had mentioned earlier, when it did get back to your original comment about, I don't know if it was choice points or if it was, right? So the old and the new choice points, and past, present, and future. Like, I wanted you to kind of go a little deeper on that, because I was following what you're putting down, but we could go into so many different layers. And oh, so speaking of, let's tie that in with the hallway really quickly. So when you'd been talking earlier, I'd written down choices, hallway, 2 songs, the gene key, and I was drawing this. So this just little X with the points on it. And it's not an exact, if you look at that, it's a cross, but I didn't draw it like a cross. I was guided to draw it more like that angle. And to me, that looks almost like a plane, right? Almost like a plane of, if you're standing and you're looking ahead and you're looking to the sideways, but it's not necessarily up and down. It's almost like it's turned right now like this. And I could totally go into flow with this. So I'm hearing adjustments are being made literally on our plane of existence. And this changes how we play, the notes we play, and the notes that we tune into. Therefore, we are tipping the scales. And as we are tipping the scales, the entire scalar, hearing mode and commode of interpretation changes, as well as the functionality and of the fractality of how we play and function in the space of fractality. And I'm just seeing all of these components. It becomes more easily available to us and more advantageous to see what would have been so far up there. It's like, nope, it's more right here now, or right here now. Does that, that's what I'm saying.
So I'm hearing different access points within the, so that's, I was just hearing different access points, and now I'm feeling like within the typical framework.
Okay, so funny because I deleted and I shouldn't have. I was just talking about um, in flow about the dodecahedron of the earth and how things have shifted. And I'm seeing our patterns in our body. So we're accessing different places and portals and spaces that we didn't necessarily have access before to in the same way, or maybe we wouldn't have noticed or we wouldn't have heard. See, this is something I just want to go really linear for a minute and just from keep it simple starseed perspective is I can hear, as you do too in these types of videos, somebody saying, well, I'm not feeling that, or I don't feel like anything's lining up. But part of the problem with this is there's a lot of individuals who aren't playing their own song. They're still listening to this old song. They're not recognizing that they're their own composer. They're not recognizing that they've changed the key or changed the pitch, or it's time to change the key or change the pitch. So what happens is they get stuck in this old container when they don't realize that there's actually a door right there down the hallway. So they're not recognizing that there's a hallway in between the doors.
Yeah. Exit point and entrance point.
Is
And
the
the
access point.
yeah. And the space in between.
Mm-hmm. The access points.
That's right. Yeah. I like to say access and access. Like I almost have to say them back to back because of the way. Oh my goodness. Okay. Shoo.
I'm going to pause just for a second while you look that up.
So I'm just gonna talk about just for a second the hallway and what the hallway means for myself. So hallways are almost like the point in between, like a transition. It's like a transition point as you're using your momentum to move from past point to future point. And they're merged within the hallway, or they're united within the hallway in a certain respect. And you can have, so in a house, a hallway connects two rooms that could have completely different energy, but they're within the same house. So for me, whenever I'm in dream time and there's hallways that I'm moving through, that would almost signify to me a scene change, a complete reality shift, or a next song, like just a next stage or something like that. Now I'm hearing gatekeeper, like you're the gatekeeper, you know?
So funny.
Gateway, gatekeeper, passageway, which makes me feel like the drawing that you drew. And it's like the passageways within the passageways. And which makes me, I'm getting a reference drawn to one of the keys that we're in, which is Gene 48, which is
you said 8?
48. Yeah. The earth is in 48 right now, which is
I love my 4s and 8s.
Yeah, it's the wonder of uncertainty, and it's connected to the lymphatic system, which makes me think of passageways within passageways, because the lymphatic system is like I'm sure you've heard of lymphatic drainage, massage. Like it's entirely its own system that is worked with very subtly, and it can be overlooked. If you're too hard, if you're pushing too hard, then you're not moving the lymph. It's a light touch with the lymphatic drainage. And so that is kind of like an analogy to this, our etherical and our life lymphatic drainage, or life lymphatic system, sorry, and drainage. Which can bring us into that, something that was from our own private conversation chat that we have, that it's like, is this draining me, or is it exerting me in a positive way? Am I exerting
Right.
my energy and I just feel like I've been worked in a good way? Or
Mm-hmm.
is this draining me? Not good for me, taking my life force in a way that I don't want to be supporting anymore. So
Right.
that's like a reflective moment within the choice points, within the passageway, as we're moving and choosing which room we're going to. We're asking
Yeah.
those questions. Um, the sound behind the sound,
Mm-hmm.
and recognizing that we are our own inventor. We're the composer, right? So we can't necessarily be guided by someone within the old room, by someone within the old studio, by someone who's not going through the hallway, who doesn't even want to go into the next room, who
Yeah.
may be saying, don't do that because this. It's like, can we use our old, really checking our drainage system, how we feel, as to if that advice is something that is even relevant for us. Um,
Yes. I love that.
in our private chat, it was like, you know, some of us are pioneering and inventing, and composing.
Mm-hmm.
Who can advise us? And it's like we can use support and encouragement and cheerleading, like we cheerleaders, like let's like go, like having a team around us to support us in our new endeavors as
Mm-hmm.
we're embarking on uncharted territory
Mm-hmm.
within ourselves, within the human framework, within our next adventure. So we can't necessarily even use the old maps or the old
Mm-hmm.
mapping system. It's still
Mm-hmm.
there, but it's like
Yeah.
we're moving in the, we're like moving into this. So I was also hearing subharmonic,
Mm-hmm.
like an overtone, undertone. That's like the in between
Yeah.
layers now. So that kind of goes back to the fascia, but it's like another even version of the fascia, the lymph system, for example. And that kind of ties into you and I tapping into the multi levels of the astral. We're like
Oh, yeah.
we're like slipping into hallways of in between
Yeah.
and recognizing like different capacities. And
Yeah.
as I said that, I'm hearing like capillaries, like
Yeah.
areas of the vascularized that we didn't even realize blood flowed to and life flowed to and through. And the reason why we may not have noticed those subtle bodies or spaces or places before is because we were still reenacting
Mm-hmm.
old songs. And then I was given the picture of a musician who has to play the same song because it's a hit and everyone wants to hear it. And they're like showing up, playing the same song, reenacting the same process over
Yeah.
and over. And everyone's like, yes, nostalgia. But really, the artist feels trapped
Yeah.
with that success.
Mm-hmm.
It's grateful for it, but it also is like bitter and like, I want to make a new song. And it
So,
can be a risk for that artist to
yeah.
go out and create a completely new song because its fans could be like, no, that's not you.
Yes. I love the fact that you're saying that. That's not you. Who? Well, then, wait a minute.
Who are you trying to be? And it's like, no, but I've shed that self.
Yeah.
That song that I wrote 30 years ago for that relationship that I had 30 years ago, I'm happily married now. Now I
Yeah.
want to write a song about my. And
Yep.
people are like, no, I really resonate with that broken-hearted you that's down on life. Like I want that song. Like, but I found myself now and I'm great. I don't know if I like that healed version. I like I like the grungy one.
What happened? Wait, you used to talk about shadow work all the time. That's where I want to be. Yeah. This is so symbolic for at so many different layers because we could look at this within the spiritual community. We could look at this within our own, um, we could look at it happening on the stage of Hollywood. We could look at this like, wait a minute, this person really disappointed me. That's not who they are. But who are they? Who, how do we really know anyone else? Um, we've had this happen to us before, huh?
Especially if they're acting,
Yeah.
especially if it was all an act.
Yeah.
Then
Right.
sometimes when the act stops and then it's chosen not to put it back up and reenact it, people are like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, so
Well, and this is where it comes back to us playing our own piano. That's why I was showing, no, you're the one playing the piano. You've got all the symphony around you, and those people that are in that symphony, I'm being shown this, the violin player over here and the guitarist and the flute player over here. Your instrument could be any of those things. However, you're here, and those people may come and go, and they may add to your symphony. They may be out of key, whatever it is. Bottom line is, we don't necessarily know the person that's playing that instrument.
Ooh, oh my gosh.
But we can tune in to how they're playing, what tempo they're choosing to play at, and we can hold space for that's their song. And if it's not compatible with what it is that we're now playing, they may go and leave and find a new band, a new symphony, play a different song. Maybe they just want to keep playing Beethoven over and over and over again. I love Beethoven, but I'm just saying, now Beethoven, people are there. It might be that we're now tuning into our higher self, and we're like, wait a minute, I'm there with Beethoven right now, and I'm getting a new song. Where do we think that those symphonies came from? Source.
Okay. I love this. I
I
love
just
this.
went into like 10 different places with that.
Well, I was hearing Todd Medina say, to thine own self be true, but then
Yeah.
also to thine own self be tuned. Stay true, but then stay tuned. Stay true to your own tune. And this is helping me realize why I don't like to give people, like, this is helping me realize the type of guidance that I would want to give people. I don't even necessarily like to tune them to my tune. I like to just show them how I tune myself.
Yep.
In hopes that they can take, and then, some people will be like, no, but I really want you to answer that for me. And I'm like, well, I can't, but I can give you like 5 options.
Yeah.
And feel the tune of each one of those together.
Yeah.
Like, this one makes me feel this way. And then like, this is just, so it's like teaching each one how to tune their own piano.
Yes. Oh my goodness, I should not have deleted. This is hilarious. So I did not know what we were going to be talking about, but it's hilarious because that's exactly what I was saying, of course, which was, and I was kind of explaining that when I'm working with someone personally, I look at, it's not like, basically we have all of these options. We have all of these choice points, and where we choose to go in each moment, and even not choosing necessarily can also be a choice point, if we want to call it that. That changes the potentials, right, in the field. So from one perspective, if we're just tuning in to the potentials in the field, and we feel into, well, here's an opportunity, here's an opportunity, which one of those, however we make our own adjustments is what we then kind of share with others, right? Like our own, well, this is how I've done it. This is how I see things. And this is how I play with this and I play with that. You were singing earlier, we could go with this, we could go with that, right? It is, that's what it feels like. It's like, or I don't know if that's what you were saying. I'm just saying, there's all of these abilities, and that can seem overwhelming at times. And that might be a good thing to talk about as well. And I want to get back to the hallways and the astral a little bit. So I just want to remind you, I want to come back to that. But sorry, I just went off on a tangent.
Oh, it's good. Good tangent. And so you and I can see, like, we are more comfortable sitting in the center of all the opportunities, all of these tunalities, these tunes.
Yeah.
Cross points, cross half, lattice, like sitting within this lattice work, being aware of infinite access points within the one access point within us. And we can sit like the center. And I'm seeing almost these access points as constellations as well,
I
because
was,
they cross hatching that have, power points within them that are like hubs, main hubs. Like we just sit and follow connect the dots,
yeah,
connect the dots, and ping, ping, ping. That's your ping pong. We ping within the center of this pinging system that can be, we
yeah.
can talk about it like sonar, like whatever, but it just, it's our mapping system that is nonlinear, but it has a linear accessibility and application. So I'm
Yeah, so what you're talking about now, I'm kind of feeling back into originally how this kind of started was seeing the other people have this as well. So when we put someone else in a box or a container and we say that that is who that person is, and we're putting these limiting expectations about how this should look or show up or how it should sound.
sorry. As you were saying what you were saying, I was hearing labels, labels. Like at the same time as you said how they sound, I heard labels, like the bells, how labels, labels.
Yeah. Oh, so when you say labels, I hear silver bells. So when we're looking at this, we're really being invited to, again, if we're paying attention to ourself, not from a selfish perspective, but I'm hearing self-portrait.
Ooh,
How do we portray
wow.
this idea or concept of who we are and project? Are we projecting that onto others? And are we recognizing that it's an open point, open source system? So when I drew this, the first one I drew was this. This is how I see us a lot of times operating, right? We could go this way and it always comes back into that spin. But some people are only in this. It's like they can only go back and forth on this pendulum, and then sometimes they cross and they go back and forth on this other pendulum. But there's more to this. I'll have to get back to that later. That's just one representation of that drawing. But my point is all these points, like it's open and accessible. And so I'm hearing the less we're pointing to, this is the only direction. We're pointing to somebody saying, you should be. We're pointing to us going, why am I not there? Oh my goodness, I could go. And remember we were in that flow where I was calling it units of comparability.
Yes.
So, right. So we're comparing ourselves and pointing fingers, and that pulls us into that direction. But if we can take a step back and recognize that hands behind the back and just point our direction with our projector of the heart and just kind of take a step back and feel into that space, we're less likely to get caught in this constant pendulum swing and then come into a spin. That's literally the silver bells is the grail, is the cup that runneth over. It's the sound behind the sound. It is that space of heart-centered unification within oneself, within one's own diversity. Because many of us have been told we have to look a certain way, feel a certain way. This is the way. Even using any tools or any pieces of music that we may have listened to that motivated us or that brought us into a certain space. I used to love to listen to Nirvana. I still love to listen to Nirvana, but that doesn't mean that that's going to motivate me or inspire me anymore in the same way.
Wow. While I was listening to you, like just really feeling into that, I heard the words, don't be afraid. And it just felt so strong. And it was like just showing these choice points and how some people don't move at all. They just will never move. They won't venture on the line. They won't connect the dots. They'll just don't want to move.
Right.
And one perspective, I'm also seeing how don't move, don't budge. But
Mm-hmm.
then I'm seeing how we're stationed and then moving the whole. So it's like you're stationed, yet you're moving. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
still anchored within your own access point. So I'm seeing within ourselves the cross point, the cross hatch, and even almost like a star, almost like within a jelly ball, these it's like these strong pillars within ourselves that hold our framework. It's like we've set ourselves, like almost like a tent. Like you pop up the tent,
Yeah.
you have your integrity, you have your main poles of virtue within yourself
Mm-hmm.
that I'm hearing are self-authorizing, self-authorship, which also
Mm-hmm.
was pinging on something you said about unification. And it's like your unification within yourself is your actual identification process. It's like scanning and going, yes, that's you. And then the door goes green and you can go through. That's how we move through the tunnels. That's how we move through. That's how we get infinite access point. That is our know thyself process as we set our framework within our tonality. Knowing our tonality gives us flexibility. And that reminds me of something I was saying to Jess as I was just flowing for her. It's like really, really asserting yourself within yourself.
Yeah.
Your foundation is set within yourself so strongly, it's rooted, then actually that gives you flexibility. You've created your stability, and now you can be incredibly flexible,
Mm-hmm.
incredibly adventurous, incredibly courageous, inventive, explorative, because you've really set your scales. And that's like
Yeah.
scale the wave, your own inner technology on. And I was technology,
Yeah.
technology.
Mm-hmm.
Know your G-force potential.
Oh
Know
my
your
goodness, the G-force. I think I'm gonna have to pull up my iPad really quick and look that up because G-force was a huge flow for me a few months back. And I even posted a picture. I don't know if I did it on my blog, but it was of the plane when it goes through light speed or what, and it just leaves that poof.
yeah.
It's like this. Ooh, okay, I'm hearing G-force technology. Okay, this takes me back to a whole different. So that G-force technology is the plane of existence. It jets us. Oh my gosh, I wish I would have not deleted my recording earlier. That's hilarious. Why do I not listen to myself? Perfect example of not necessarily listening to your intuition and just going, oh no, it's just silly. And then recognizing and how it all ties in, things that we think are silly or not really synchronistic are actually oftentimes the most.
The most. Yeah.
And so earlier I had been saying jet stream propulsion, jet, and you're talking about G-force. And I was being shown and I'm hearing cosmonaut, like we are our own cosmonaut and we are in our own cosmos, our own body. And then earlier we were talking about don't be afraid. It's like the fear is what's keeping us from the upper atmosphere, atmost fear. It's keeping us within a membrane, right? And some of us, and we talked about this in our own conversation, of sometimes we feel that membrane around us and we're like, how do I get through it? I can't quite see the other side, but I can feel that it's there. And sometimes we've done that to ourselves. We've
Yeah.
put that around us. I call it the cloak of invisibility.
Yeah.
And we can see it, kind of, we can feel it. We're not sure why it's there. And sometimes it's because we're not trusting ourselves to step through that hallway.
Oh,
And again, the hallway is so many different things, but you had said authorization earlier and identify. So whenever we play with words all the times, all the times, I'm seeing times tables, multiplication. Oh boy, I just went. But the identify, it's the dent, it's we're making a dent, okay? Where the phi is PHI, it's that golden means, it's that spiral. And I always see when I say identify, I see the dents on a golf ball. I've talked about this before. Those little dents on the golf ball actually help the golf ball stay in speed. It's not perfect. There's all these little pocket marks, and within those pockets helps the flow. And you were talking about being in that space in our pillar, but part of it is rigidity versus fluidity, right? And it's being able to be in that fluid fluctuation to help balance out the scales.
Ooh.
And then last but not least, the authorization. Well, author, we're writing our own music, we're writing our own book. Thor, I hear Thor's hammer, and that's a whole other spin because that represents lightning to me. It represents time travel. It represents creativity. It represents moving in between dimensions. And then I put authorization versus theorization versus fearing. So it's literally giving ourselves the authorization to not to assume that look at the theory of everything and recognize that they talk about what is it? It's a theory until it's proven true. But again, what truths have really been proven based on an old reality structure? So now we're going through a whole new series of, I'm hearing more than meets the eye. Sometimes people have to see in order to believe, right? We've talked about this before, but that's not necessarily what are we looking with? Again, it comes back to our inner, okay, I just went in again.
Whoa. Yeah. So the proof, when you're talking about proving, the proof is in the pudding.
Mhm.
I'm like, the pudding.
Yeah.
The pudding, oh my gosh, like pudding, putting, putting, putting from the
Putting the
green.
golf. Oh, yep.
And it's like, I'm like seeing us putting the golf ball right in the center and then
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
while you were speaking about the fog, I was also hearing fog of war and how sometimes war is created just to create that fog. It's like,
Ooh.
too much clarity. We need to create war to create the fog of war. We need the fog effect. More fog. We need more fog instead of more
Smoke machines.
smoke machine. We need more smoke. We need more mirrors. Reflect, deflect, smoke. Okay, good. We're good. So
Yeah.
it's like we don't even find ourselves through the fog. When you know your tune, can you navigate through the fog? Now I'm thinking of being on the water and the fog and the lighthouses. Who's the lighthouse? Who's doing the lighthouse? Setting up the lighthouse, being the lighthouse in the fog and trusting that that's your job. And then doing that and trusting it's going to be guiding those that are lost within the fog. And, you don't leave the lighthouse and go into the water and then chase after the boats. You stay put.
Yeah.
Put.
Yeah.
Putting green.
I love that little analogy because we could really go so many places. I think I was talking about this. I'm kind of learning a little bit about golf, and it's like open. You can either hit an open face or closed face. You either can go up or you go down. And it depends on all the angle that you hit the ball, whether it's going to go off some other crazy direction. You have to keep your eye on the ball, but you have to be flexible enough in order to make that ball go.
Your own center, like aligning yourself, right? Tuning yourself, aligning yourself. You're structurally sound.
And it's practice too. It isn't like, I just really feel the need. This is the biggest message that's coming through.
Oh my goodness. Practice, practice, practice makes perfect the feeling of attunement. It makes perfect how to get into alignment quicker. It
Yeah.
just it makes perfect the setting and the technology, the techno yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can set it and forget it.
Yeah.
But keep like every day set it and forget it. Like that's the practice. Like you're, you know, of it, like, okay, so the set it and forget it is like when you've really sort of drilled that within, which is like drilled it, this is the drill practice, and you
Mm-hmm.
drilled that in, it's set within, all the different layers. And within the last few days, I keep hearing stratum corneum and all of these different references to the layers of skin. So
Mm.
probably another day, another flow.
Well,
Um,
it's all connected, right? I was above, as above, so below, as within, so without.
well, and the dimples and the porous, the hairs that grow through the pores.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about that and the space within the skin as a reference between the space, the lattice work, the dimensions. Like when you were talking about the dent, it made me see like the space fabric and
Yeah.
and material that's sitting within the structural framework of space fabric, creating the dent, creating the dimple. And then it also reminded me of something, of a word that I like to play with: individual, in divot, jewel, like a
Mm-hmm.
jewel with
Jewel.
creating
Mm-hmm.
it, within itself and within the space it sits within.
Yeah. And then I see that as in die. So I see that as diving in, not just two, but I see that in the two, there is one in the all, in the jewel. And then I also see that as the jewels as in pressure, right? Aren't jewels like pressure,
Ooh,
right?
jewels, yeah, jewels are energy. Jewels are energy, which is pressure, and then and precious
Ooh, precious.
and value.
The ring,
Oh
precious.
my gosh,
Seeing
the
Lord of the
ring.
Rings, which is that
Ooh.
on that ring, oh my goodness, we could go into so many different, and what also brings that into another spin is recognizing too that individual is really, this is an individual journey. Like you talk about these different lighthouses, and I really feel, again, it's finding our own song and our own tune, because we are helping guide people through the fog from one perspective. Everybody's fog is going to look a little different,
Yes.
and everybody, how we guide each other. And when I say that, I don't see myself as a guide or a teacher per se, but at the same time, we are all guides and teachers in our own way. So are we being open enough to recognize that our truth may not be someone else's absolute, like this lighthouse that I'm holding isn't the end all be all know all lighthouse. There's, I'm getting goosebumps. There's millions of lighthouses, and we each hold a certain variation to how we hold our or house our light.
Ooh,
Right? So
comparability comes back again.
say it again. I'm sorry.
The units of comparability.
Oh, right.
And then as you're speaking, it's like the boats don't come and park at the lighthouse and then just come up and sit in the lighthouse. The boats keep going. Once
Yes.
they've seen what the light shows them, they keep going on their voyage.
Right.
They're all on a different voyage within this sea, within this
Mhm.
ocean of
Right.
current.
Ooh.
You are just one point along the journey.
And my lighthouse may be in a certain area or space or down a certain hallway. And in that space, there may be another, we might be on that journey thinking this is where we're going to go. And then all of a sudden we're like, ooh, what's that light over there? I feel more drawn to that area. And it's recognizing that there's no one way to get there, even though we're all coming back to oneness. And I bring this up because there is this, I don't know if dichotomy is the right word, but and what is the right word? Like us playing with these words is so important, I think, because people get so hung up on the language. No, this is wrong. I always bring up, remember we were just talking about that scene
Yeah.
from Something About Mary. I do it in almost all of the videos. No, you can't do 6-minute abs. There's only 7-minute abs. 6 minutes isn't enough. Like
Yeah.
people,
Semantic.
yeah. So it's like people can't, that like doesn't compute to some, and that's fine. But again, that's that sitting at that piano. We might decide to get up from the piano and play a completely different instrument. Yet we're still playing with that symphony. We might decide to write a completely different song or add a different note. And there are some that won't be able to go through that hallway. They won't be able to step into that space. They won't be able to necessarily hear that song or sound behind the sound. And some of us are like, come, let's play over here. Let's see what we can. And others are like, oh, no, 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 you're going in a totally wrong direction. And for them, that may be true.
Ooh, so I'm hearing G-force as you say that. So it's like some people are almost like hit with your G-force as you're moving out. Like they're almost feeling that. And then
Reverberation.
yeah, so the G-force and that reminds me of like the feeling of fear before you know you're about to go mock, or even
Ooh.
during while you're going at mock speed, it can incite that feeling, right? And that's when I heard don't be afraid, because it's like you can go places without even going anywhere. You can go far in your consciousness. You can
Mhm,
explore ideas and
mhm.
perspectives and all of these things, but you have to drop the fear in order to travel.
Okay.
I'm not prepared to do that.
I'm hearing mocking bird. Yeah.
Whoa.
Dumb
Oh
and
my God.
Dumber. But
Whole
having said that, there's this repetitive modeling and this um, a mockingbird is amazing, but I really, the mockingbird is mocking only what it's heard. But does it mock a new sound? Can it
Mhm.
mock this new sound that it's hearing? And I'm just being guided to go into this whole flow about that. And also back to the G force. Okay, so what I'm recognizing, sorry, I'm just seeing this book that has like this toroidal like field around it. And I'm seeing this reference. Actually, last night I dreamed I was in like in an airport, right? Which to me is a hallway from one perspective.
Huge
And
hallway.
right, and I was seeing this plane go straight up and we were watching it and we're like, oh my goodness, because it was so close to us and it just went straight up. And then all of a sudden it stopped and started making this free dive back down. And we're like, oh no. And then right before it got to us, it just hovered. And then it opened up its doors and had to drop off all these packages that it forgot to leave behind before it could get hit its G force or Mach, whatever. Do we need to pause for a second? I'm gonna pause. Okay, so I hit recording. So yeah, so it was interesting because I could take that into so many different layers, right? And I'm seeing this reference to um, that plane, first of all, did something that we didn't know it could do, right? First of all. Second of all, in order for it to get where it needed to go, it had to stop and go back down and unload. And here we were waiting to help it. It was like throwing packages out at us, and we're trying to catch these packages so that we could help it. So there were some people that agreed to stay there to help this unloading. I'm getting goosebumps. And we knew that we could go that, I wasn't even interested in the plane because for me, I don't know how to explain it. But anyways, so I was seeing this reference and there were other planes. I mean, it was this major airport that I was at. And there were all these different planes doing all these different things, going in all these different directions. And I was shown how integral, ooh, that could go into so many. Oh, I hear integral, grail, integral, the inner grail, braille, that we all are in the support system and helping to really run this airport, because
an airport, you know, in the astral,
Mhm.
like for me, a building is like a world almost. It's like its own world. A
Mhm.
building with all of the different levels in the building and the jobs and the rooms represent
Yeah.
almost like a self-contained world.
Mhm.
And then, so an airport to me is universal, galactic.
Mhm.
And, you know, when like you get in an airplane and you fly in dream time, it's like, yeah, it's otherworldly, cosmic, quantum movement between the points of reference, and those
Mhm.
packets of information would be like um, quantum downloads, and I was doing quantum architecture
Yeah.
that you receive and you unpack, and that's a important job as a facilitator, bringing in new composures,
Yeah.
new compositions, and
Mhm.
if you decompose, right? You gotta break down all the units of comparability into yourself, and then you translate. So you're digesting it and then you're translating it, and you're literally having to rebuild it. So first you have to break the parts of, right? You break all the pieces down and then you have to rebuild it in an applicable way
Ooh.
for wherever your airport is stationed. And then, like,
Uh-huh.
you know, so someone can't necessarily guide that engineer into building something that has never been here before, and not in the way that it is here. And
Yeah.
that is oh my goodness, that's just the next level of,
Layer. I was hearing application overlay. So you're doing all these new applications and you're overlaying in an old system, and then you're breaking down and you're rebuilding and you're putting pieces back together and you're getting rid of what doesn't fit anymore. But we're not forgetting entirely that we've been there, done that, because then that would be a shame. And that's a play on words.
yeah. So as you were saying that, I was
Shame.
seeing
Shame.
I was seeing us taking a rectangle that is like a, oh my gosh, what do you call it? Like tic-tac-toe board,
Hmm.
the X's and O's, but like just the framework.
Hmm.
For some reason I can't, like it's a grid. We're
Yep.
taking a grid and overlaying it.
Mhm.
And oh, it's such a, it's like I'm seeing surgery and sewing and like um weaving's the same thing as sewing, but it's like what my dad's dream was, taking two songs and putting them together to make a new one. And like you respect that there's a, it feels delicate, like archaeology, like dusting the
Right.
dust, you know, it's very delicate, intricate work
Yeah.
with reverence. You have reverence for what you're digging up. You
I love that. Yes.
ground in the space, and you have, you know, there's a method, like a method,
Yeah.
and you're
There's no
really,
shame in it.
there's no shame in it. You're
Being
uncovering,
gentle, not like cracking it like, oh.
assembling
Mhm.
and learning, but then you're also, you know, you're working with the past, but you're living in the present.
Mhm.
And then you're representing information that can be used in the present and appreciated in the future. Like
Yeah.
there's a constant relaying of the different reference points, and there's a real like hearing like artfulness, and I was hearing artfulness and grace period as you're grazing through sifting.
Mhm.
Reverence is the good word. It's like, you know, when cultures go and erase history and then give everybody amnesia and nobody knows how we got to where we got.
Right.
You know, there's like, so I'm getting something about like, it's really important to preserve, but don't let that reserve you. Like you preserve, but then you also allow adaptation and growth. But
Yeah.
there, like I'm just seeing, like I'm just getting this vision of these beings that understand the importance. And I'm hearing record keepers, um, librarians, custodians,
Yeah.
encapsulators, ones that come to collect fragments, data,
Yeah.
uh, preserve. Uh, so like I'm almost like self-preservation. And that's not in fear, it's out of wisdom
Mhm.
keepers.
Mhm. Yeah.
So we get lost in time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing too, is if we look back at ourselves, I mean, how do we, and I'm going to come back to the word that I was using, which is, oh, I already lost it again. Because I was hearing choice points, but um, these packages, right, of what did I call them? Of comparability. We have to have something. We don't have to have something to compare it to. Units of comparability. So we're getting this information and we can then look back and compare and contrast where we were to where we are now, rather than acting as if we never were there,
Great.
because that in itself has value. We're not saying you're not valuable. You mean that meant nothing to me, because
Right.
at the time it did mean something. It may not mean anything to us now because that has already been integrated and processed, but at the same time, it's valuable sometimes to see this old map. And so I think there's this common theme of wanting to erase all of that and write over it, overwrite it. And while we are doing that, we are overwriting it and overwriting it. But at the same time, we're not acting as if it never was.
Yeah. So I'm seeing this delicate stepping
Yeah.
stairway, a
Yep.
delicate stairway. You don't blow the stairway up because you don't like the passageway. So I'm seeing this delicate overlaying, and now I'm hearing stratum corneum again. So I'm gonna have to look that up. My computer died.
Yeah.
Layer of skin.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. When you said that word, go ahead. I'll keep talking.
well, and the delicate archaeology and oh, losing it.
Ooh. Um, how do you spell that? Let's see what people ask.
Oh, you were saying something, and I was hearing it's all relevant, and then the word relevant relive relivant, and then and like relive, and then relivents, like venting, like vents, the vents where the air flows, which is like the venting system again, where like the space in between, the passageways in between. It's like
Uh-huh.
the vents in between, which is like the space between the layers that have
Yeah.
delicately been relayered, so that all of the past is still preserved, so that we can see the passageway of progression.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
maintaining the lymph, the vents, so that we can see where we've gone. And then
Mm-hmm.
we live something ants, tunnel
Yeah.
systems. And then when you just blow them up, it's just a big hole.
Yeah.
And you don't see a hole because all you see is a hole.
Mm-hmm.
um,
It's like, how did we get here? How do you connect the dots? And
yeah,
that's part of a guidance system. Because from my own perspective, from my own journey, if I'm having a conversation with someone and they're maybe in a place in their life where they're feeling stuck, for example, I am tuning into my guidance system, which is how I got to how I've come to where I am now.
yeah,
And there's been a lot of different tunnels that I've
yeah,
been through that have given me insight to how to work through certain things in my life. That doesn't mean that that's going to be what that person needs to see or hear, but I can then feel into all of those experiences. And I think that's the key, because we are experiential beings. And through our experience, we express our own creations. Therefore, what we created before was still part of the human experience. And so all of our life, from birth to now, there's been, whether, and I could get into whether you're a walk-in or whether you're this or whether you're that, it doesn't matter. You're still a soul having an experience, right? In this skin suit, connected to all of these feelings,
Oh my God.
emotions, memories, right? Which are different, but did you just?
Oh my gosh. Well, you're saying skin suit, stratum corneum. Like I gotta go in there. Oh my God.
Yeah, I gotta show you, so I'll share screen. Wait, how do
I
you spell that?
translocation, locomotive, lost. So it's like don't get lost in translation and like the translation between the layers. Like, gosh, as you kept saying, experience, I was hearing like X, peer,
Yeah,
E-N, hence, ear, peer, X, peer, like expeer, like spear, but also peering in the X, like you're in the X point and you're peering. That's where your experience like is valuable because you've seen planted in the X point in the tunnels. You've speared it, you've poked through it, you've peered it, experienced.
this is so funny. I'm actually gonna share screen. You're gonna get a kick out with the skin,
Yeah,
because you're,
expression. Oh God.
but you're talking, poof. So, well, I want to talk about that too, because, and I also want to give a little shout out to my friend Annette. She kind of showed this diagram for me this week of what I was seeing. And it's what you're talking about, those layers. I'm like, that's what I was seeing about the strata and the hallways and the in between.
Oh my God.
It's like these layers of the, so I want to kind of, yeah, go ahead.
Oh my God. Okay, I just caught up. I'm sorry. I got trapped in the Annette, your friend Annette. Like I was literally the net. Like
You guys, this is our secret. So synchronicity, by the way, this is like Candice and I have been friends for like what, 4 or 5 years now, 4 years. I don't know, somewhere around that. This is how we talk all the time. Like, this is constant.
oh, I feel like sometimes if someone was listening, they'd just be like, they're not talking about anything. Like there's nothing, there's no translation happening, but we're just like, yes, yes, shoo, 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 shoo.
Oh gosh. So this is those late, oh man, I just went poof. So
Mhm.
um the layers, the strata, so atmosphere, oh my goodness. So when we go into these layers, it can, it, certain layers can feel dense and certain layers can feel expansive, and but it's all connected and it's all, like you said, interwoven, and it's part of the fabric, right, of what it is that we're tuning into. And so part of what I wanted to share with that was, we kind of went off onto a tangent, but the layers of like the astral, and I think sometimes we get caught up in this is 4D and this is 3D and this is 5D, right? Do you want to kind of talk about that a little bit? I don't know if we want to go there, but I don't want to get into a definition. Again, I don't necessarily want to identify with one particular reality. And because when I look at the 4D and I look at the astral, I see different pockets in within the astral. To me, it's not just this is 4D and this is the astral, and the astral is on 4D, because I see the astral as being tied into many other different realms. And the 4D is a stepping, a step, a stairway. It's part of it. we could bypass it, or we could say, oh, I'm not going to go there. I just want to skip to 5D. But in from one perspective, that's not possible. But from another perspective, it can be.
Ooh. As soon as you said it's not possible, I heard passable.
Oh, and I was hearing plausible.
Ooh, passable.
Mhm.
Like passing through. Passable.
I see people walking through the 4D, like not looking, like just passing through, just passing through. Don't stick to me. I don't want to be here.
Quantum, quantum crazy. Crazy
Whew.
train. Okay, so train and locomotive keep coming in my field.
Like a
So
crazy
I was
train.
okay, so you're singing Crazy Train. I was hearing um join the love train, the
Yeah.
love train. Like you can go on the crazy train or you can like go on the love train
Yeah. You
in
could go
train.
with this, you can go with that.
And then I was feeling like the stratum corneum, and I was like, oh, I gotta go into that. And then I was like, oh my gosh, my own self archaeology. Like literally
Mhm.
feeling how large of a system that the body is condensed. Like condensed. I mean,
Ooh,
there's so much energy in our one frame that is condensed. If we were to open it all up, it is a universe to unpack. So I was feeling the archaeology within my own self and
yeah.
how we literally are exploring the universe of self
Mhm.
in our own mapping system. That's our traveling. And like when we say, oh, I went, it's like the G force within our own mapping system. We're literally going places without moving. And we're, within the quanta, uh, oh my Lord. Because I'm tapping into how much energy is in my little frame. We literally are batteries of reality that generate and plug in to
Yeah.
this hyper, okay, I'm hearing hypernetic space field technology.
Mhm.
Hypernetic, like net, kinetic, condense, containment.
Mhm.
And I'm speaking about the earth and the playground, earth
Yeah.
playground.
I'm seeing the crystal lattice work, and I'm hearing hydrosphere.
Condensification, um, like oh, matter material is so dense, but you can unpack it. And I'm seeing that model again that we like to play with, Dan Winter, um, shape geometry. It's
Mhm.
like elements.
The
And I'm hearing
star mother, he calls it.
alphabet
I
soup.
think.
We talk about, oh my Lord.
I know. I know. Poof.
Somebody sent, and it might have been you girls, maybe no, it was Alicia. She sent me something about the human genome had just been completed, like on April 2nd or something. They'd finally completed the genome, and how gold is an element that is actually really beneficial for our brains and
Mhm.
the quality of the neurons and the connectivity. Like
Mhm. You mean dust?
possibly, and I'm just thinking of
Dune?
the golden crowns and um oh my goodness, I love gold. Who is that? What's his name? Dr. Evil, I think. Gold. Gold member. I'm thinking of
Gold
gold member.
member. I'm hearing rock on gold dust woman.
We could go into like, if I had my computer right now, we could go into the like, well, we're
Well,
already in
I'm
fun.
gonna do a share screen right now because I have to share with you on this. Because what you're talking about, well, you said stratum corneum, and I was hearing, this is gonna be funny, we're gonna go into a totally different realm right now, but I was hearing cornea, like the eye, and then I was hearing like, so this is where it takes us. This is where our imagination, so I was hearing cornea, like the eye, and then I was seeing corny, like this is so be silly in order to see. And I'm hearing the mycelium sea, the ocean of mycelium that is within our body. Then take that inner to outer, take the inner to the outer realms, and beyond this into a new realm of realization that allows us, oh my gosh, sorry, just
Let's
wanted to
go. No, you go.
let it rip. So I'm just gonna share the screen and then you can play with this because what you're talking about, I'll hit share. Here we
Oh,
go. Can you see that?
yes. Okay.
So
So this
stratum corneum, lucid,
is the
spinosum.
horny layer,
It's the horny layer.
the outermost layer of the epidermis. The human stratum corneum comprises several layers of flattened corneocytes. That really triggers me in like a, like ping, ping, ping.
Yeah.
Corneocytes that are divided into two layers. Okay,
Yes.
right?
Here we go. The two songs.
Two songs, the stairway, the bottom and the top. I started at the top, now I'm at the bottom of the stairs. Um, uh, the skin's protective acid mantle, lipid barrier sits on top. So the protective barrier, the membrane, the fluid, protects. So that fluid that sits on top, our oil essentially, protects us
Mhm.
from the harshness of the elements. It's like well, I don't want to say mucus, but it's like a mucus membrane that protects our skin from like
Okay.
free radicals and radiation and
Right. So I see when you're reading through this, my eyes were drawn to the corneocytes
yeah.
of the stratum disjunction, just disjunctum, but I was hearing disjunction, are larger, more rigid, and more hydrophobic
Okay.
than
So
that of the stratum compactum.
okay. So it almost repels water a little bit.
Mhm.
It lets the water stay on the outside. Unless you have something that can break through the oil layers that will then allow it to be hydrophilic, and absorb the water, which can totally be done. Um,
Okay.
so it's
So
like,
you, yeah, go ahead.
um,
Well, you're talking about like permeability and the
um,
membrane. So I'm always guided about the sponge and fascia. So if you're rigid and you're not hydrating and you're not allowing fluidity, you can't. Okay, so I'm just gonna hit stop share for a moment. Or did you want to go into that a little deeper?
can you go up a little bit?
Yeah. So what
There's
happens is that while you're reading that, the if you have a sponge and you it's dry and you go to pour water on it, it won't absorb it, right? That's how the fascia works in the body. So the sponge has to be a little moist and it has to be fluid in order to absorb more fluidity. And what I'm seeing is the old structure of our reality and many of our physical bodies were completely dehydrated, acidic, stuck with this rigid barrier around it. This is the way reality is. This is the structure. And now what's happening is we're pouring all of this information and all of this energy is pouring in from the sun, coming up from the earth, coming in from our higher selves. And many people are not necessarily able to absorb it
mm,
because they're so rigid within their own structure. And so again, we're being invited to go back and look at our flexibility and with
rehydrate.
words, with feelings, with yeah, go ahead.
Well, rehydrate and like almost seeing like a fire hydrant within ourselves that we have to plug into. We have to rehydrate. We have to connect the hose, which is the hallway,
Yeah,
to and then like hallway funneling system,
yeah,
shower and sprinkling system. It's like turn the water on, turn the hose on, turn the tap
yeah,
um, on the inside to receive what's happening on the outside. Feed within so you can receive without.
right.
Uh, and then with the skin, I'm an esthetician, so I'm thinking about the dead skin layers and like you have to exfoliate because you could say there's years of dead skin of layers just sitting on top of you that
Weighing
are
us down.
clogging it up.
Mhm.
Um, so let's go up, down a little bit. So yeah, they're talking about the dead tissue. Um, I just saw something that was like cycles of, oh, selective permeability, which is really interesting, right? What we let in, what we choose to come in, this
Yeah.
intelligent system that we live within. Like the skin has its own intelligence,
Hmm.
which like when you said skin suit, and then I was like, get in, it was like um in the keys that I was about to go in a little bit, it talks about our capabilities, our actual capacities that we don't utilize.
Oh, do
So
you
that
want to go into that just a minute? I'm going to let you do that. I'll be right back. Keep talking. I love this. Is perfect timing. I'll be
I'm
right
gonna try
back.
in a weird way. We're like I said, gold member, and we're talking about the human genetic genome, sorry, being finally sequenced and completed. And then something that really stood out in that article was about gold and how gold is really beneficial to us in many ways, but especially to our brains, to the way that to our almost like our level of awareness, our cognitive ability. And the sun is in gene key 21 right now, and underneath the key it says a noble life. And one of the sort of archetypal stories that they use in gene key 21 in the 64 ways contemplation, I believe it brings it up in there, and perhaps in the original key book as well. They talk about King Arthur, which so King Arthur is the archetype for gene key 21. I want to wait so Carrie can hear this. Carrie, I was just talking about King Arthur and how
Mm.
is connected to gene key 21, which the
You mean
sun is.
king authorization?
Yes, exactly. I was just saying that. And also the gold, the
Mm.
crown, the gold, how it
Oh,
affects our nobility, right? So
yeah.
noble, knowable, know thyself.
I'm
The
just going to say our ability to know thyself.
yeah, the crown, the jewels on the
Yeah.
crown, giving us better sight. Oh, and that just reminded me something about the stratum corneum sites on the skin. I was seeing those sites as like each eyes, almost like eyes within every divot on our skin. Like we could
Mm.
literally see with every cell of our being.
Hmm.
When we get goosebumps, like it's like every cell alive, every cell
Yeah.
in us, cellular reception, like
Hmm.
skin cellular reception. So I'm getting something about how our skin is a communication system. Our
For
skin
sure.
is telling us like, by our tingles, by all of the sensations. It is
Yeah.
literally a form of communication in our know thyself system. Your skin is telling you something. Your skin is
Yeah.
communicating amongst other parts of your body.
Yeah. I was just
Um,
trying to explain that with someone the other day. Like, they're like, well, how do you feel? And I'm like, because some people are more visual, some people are more feeling. But it's like, how do you feel this? Go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, when you said skin suit, like something you're like, get in the skin suit, that really like ricocheted through me. And we see movies like people getting into high-tech suits, and the suits have like a visor, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, but your skin suit, do you know the capabilities that it has? And so you're just about to explain that. How do you feel? The skin suit's telling us.
Yeah.
We're connected into our biological attunement
Organization, our
organ,
organs.
the piano,
Hmm.
right? It's that piano again. And what is the skin? It's the largest organ that we have.
Hmm. I was
Play
just
it.
going to say that.
Yeah, play it. Play with it. Learn how to play in
Yeah.
tune with that organelle. Oh my
And
God.
it's sometimes we just feel like I had somebody go, well, what do you mean you can feel? I'll use a solar flare, for example. Well, I feel like there's a space between my skin and my clothes, for example.
Yes.
Like all of a sudden, it's like I have goosebumps, but I don't.
Right.
Although sometimes it can be goosebumps. It's recognizing the space that we're in, including the space within our skin.
Oh, we could just go and go and go. Like the gene key 48, the wonder of uncertainty. This is the key of knowing in the unknown. It's the
Mm.
void, it's the space, it's the infinite well. It's a very feminine key. It has a connection to do with parenting as well, but I don't even know if we have time to go into that flow. Like there's just so much
Yeah.
uh, that it talks about a cycle from our age 7 to 14, which is a musical scale, right? Like our developmental stages go with scales from 0 to 7, from 7 to 14, from 14 to 21.
Yeah.
It's like we're hitting new octaves in within our own developmental symphonic production.
And I see like the flower, like the octaves, like it's like zoom, and then it comes back around, and then zoom, and then it comes back around, and then it gets bigger and comes back around, like these circles, like these.
Yes. The layers
I'm hearing
string.
timed technology.
So the gene key 48 imprints us through our second cycle. This second cycle relates to our emotional development and explains exactly where our feelings of inadequacy come from. As we incarnate into our emotional and or astral body,
You guys.
the prevalent emotional patterns of our parents and the world at large are imperceptibility imprinted within our aura. So imperceptibility, I'm almost seeing like the impassable spaces,
Yeah.
or blockades or imprints that we can that can be fogs for us that we can bring clarity into. So in this developmental stage, it can actually program our feeling body, and it does. So it's like, how do you feel? How do you see? It's because we faced all of those things in that programming period. We faced our 7 to 14 cycle. We've had to go into it. We've had to work with that child, that programming, that patterning, parenting, patterning,
I'm
reparented
hearing patronizing.
reparented ourselves, patronizing, but then patriotic. So we've gone into the patriotize, and we've paid homage, like I'm just like paving, patriot, pioneer, parrot, reparrot, like not repeat.
Parrot is key because parrot, and maybe we've talked about this before, but for me, parrot represents creative expression. So you can either repeat the patterns that somebody else tells you, or you can express it in your own creative form.
Right. So we've gone in and we've reworked our
Mm.
feeling body so that now it can give us relevant information and feedback. And it's not just reenacting and reparroting
Our
what's been
parents.
imprinted with it,
Yeah.
within. Sometimes we'll still get little squawks from there, but
Yeah.
then we'll
Our
like, oh,
squawk
what are you
box.
saying? Like, what are you saying? Like, I'll go really deep in, I'll sit with you and I'll hear where that feedback and echoing is coming from. I'll listen, and then you
Yeah.
repatternize into a like I'm hearing like another harmonic, but it's again the delicate layering, the delicate archaeology as you're uncovering parts of yourself, you're dusting it off, and you're preserving it. You're not smashing that event. You're going, I know exactly why you happened. I love you. I respect this. I know this. I see why this brought me to here. I'm just going to put you on the shelf here. You know, I've rebuilt like the bones of the past. I can see
Yeah.
it. The skeleton's out of the closet. It's clear. I've cleaned it. See it. That's how we can feel very
Yeah.
clearly. You're
Yeah.
like, I can't access my intuition. That's because the sediment the dead skin cells, the sediment has settled all around you, and it's kind of got you entombed, encased within the sands of time in a hardened way. That sand can either become a mud shell or a hard shell, or it can have the space in between, as you were talking about, that can be blown by the wind. And it can just whirl around, and it can be very malleable, or it can become a tomb.
Yeah, and as you were saying that, I was seeing the sedimentary, like I was seeing sediment mentally, like I was seeing it as in like the sedimentary, and I'm seeing like the family tree, and I'm seeing the
Yeah.
heritage and the hair. There's so much we could play with, but then I'm
That,
also seeing like this mental state.
yeah.
So if we're stuck here and we're not sensing into that deeper realm, which is, I think it's important to talk about those hallways and those layers. It's not ignoring 7 to 14. You might have to go dive back underground to come back up to then see things from a different perspective, because those memories of feeling, I'm hearing isolation, that's been coming up for a lot right now, is that isolation. And this feeling of, let's say, we want to push it back down or we want to blow it up and pretend like it never happened. It did, from one perspective. Therefore, are we honoring, this comes back to the parenting, patriotism, whatever, are we honoring our own journey and having that self, again, impeccability and integrity for our container? Integrity, remember, I don't know if we talked about this or if I just said it on a video, but we talked about this. It's not just morals, it's the integrity of the container. Recognizing that this is part of the container, that we are skin suit. I was 7 years old in this skin suit before. I'm not that same person, but yet that's part of me I've taken with me and I've integrated it. And now I can look back at that and say, wow, again, it's units of comparability. I can compare this to that in contrast, and I can take that unit of information that's stored within my own skin suit technology and utilize that for jewels.
Value. Value as in yourself,
Yeah.
right? The word value, but we are within that word, value. Creating value, like YOU. And also, as I say that, I'm reminded that the gene key of the now is valor.
Mm-hmm.
Our value. So as we value, as we value ourselves, we create valor. That is the highest, one of the highest virtues of service in the world. And it is its archetypal representation is King Arthur, the king who served the round table, that is exalted because his heart is with the people and for the people, and he literally serves them, and because of that they serve him, and they are one in that. He is just the capstone of the pyramid of the people. And this key, moving from control to authority, right? Moving from control to authority to valor, the authorship. It's the codon ring of humanity, and it's the lungs, right? It's the lungs. And in I'm just going to read a tiny little bit. One of the major issues that plague the human beings and the cause of enormous conflict and violation of basic human rights is the issue of control, all rooted entirely in a single theme: territory.
Oh boy.
As we shall see, there are various different ways we can understand territory. The first is yourself, right? The physical, emotional, and intellectual confines of your own being and the boundary of your aura. If we extend that theme, you might view your relationships and families as another form of territory.
Cool.
In turn, your home and land is obviously a further extension of your family territory. Then there, your entire community or race, the outer territory, of which is made up of your nation. Finally, there is the earth itself, which forms the current territory of all human beings. This constitutes a great deal of territory, which taken together creates the potential for a lot of human conflict rooted in control. So it's like, no, that this brings know thyself to the next level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Know thyself, if you're your own territory, you're covering so much ground within your own, I want to say, archaeology.
Mm-hmm.
We have to become our own archaeologist and preserve and preserve.
Mm-hmm.
As we're preserving, we are serving. We're laying the foundation to serving. It's the prerequisites to being of service
Mm-hmm.
as we create reverent self-preservation, not out of fear,
Ooh.
out of reverence, and the upholding the integrity of the container and all that is within it.
Yeah. So as you're saying that, I was writing down like territory, but I was writing down Tori is like the Taurus,
Yeah, and terabyte,
terabyte, and also it's the Earth,
Mm.
Terra,
Yes.
Gaia, another version of Earth, terraforming. When you reform, right? And then I put when I was writing Terra, I was guided to write it out like Terra, like the cross, the era,
Oh,
like so.
wow.
And I could
And
go into so many different realms with this.
Tara, which is like K Tara, Tara, whatever will be. The
Mm-hmm.
vision that ours to see. K Tara, Tara.
Um, yeah, there's so it's always back to that Taurus field, right? Which is creation, and so it's recognizing again, we are our own creators. We are creating. What are we drawing out on our drawing board? What are, so I could go into so many different layers there.
Our own King Arthur of our own round table,
Mm-hmm.
serving, sitting on top and below. Like I was at the top of the staircase, now I'm at the bottom. I'm serving the entire staircase of myself
Mm-hmm.
within my own archaeology. I am King Arthur. I am Guinevere. The 21 and the 48. 21 is a very masculine key, so it's in the sun right now. And in the earth is a very feminine key. So I am the void and I am the sun. I am the king, I am the queen, I am the one in my
Mm-hmm.
own container. So that
Yeah.
is unification, which is your identification. So it's like
Hmm.
you get your true identification card once you unify. So you come, you unify. Oh, it's like here's your card.
Oh,
But
this is me.
yeah, you're not given a card. You are the card. You
Mm-hmm.
literally are it, and you have to get it. You have to complete it or come together in it or truly get in the skin suit, really drive it. So I'm seeing this as the technology, as the light ship
Mm-hmm.
that we're really coming into all of the components of, and we can feel so deeply into the cellular level. We can really travel within our own being and
Mm-hmm.
unlock tremendous capacity within this one body. And I'm seeing it as a trip. It's almost like showing me how I could sit in my own enjoyment in this meditation. Like people are like, oh, I don't want to meditate. It's so boring. It's like, if you really knew, if you really know, then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I want to go there. I want
Yeah.
to go in. I want to be in. And then it's like ecstasy. So I'm getting a reference to some people take the love drug, or some people recognize they are the love drug.
Mm-hmm.
And then they unlock ecstasy within themselves and they realize what a gift it can be. And then some people like, oh, I don't believe that. It's because they're encased in the sediment. They've settled in. It's
Mm-hmm.
settled and they're settling for less than they know that they could know that they are.
Mm-hmm. by just even limiting themselves to the idea of what
Yeah.
they are and saying, this is where I fit. Whew.
Denseness, like I'm thinking of a desert and the sands of time, and just how many each sand crystal is showing me how old it is, how much energy it contains, where, and like the billions of, and and it's held that formation for this long, and if that energy is released, like it's just showing me how much is in the archaeology. It's like, and that's where my guidance system has always told me, you don't have to go anywhere, just go in yourself.
Yeah.
You're everywhere. You contain, you were made. Do you know where you were made, what you're made of? Just access the elements, the elementary table that you are
Mhm.
comprised of. It's all there. And that's how it's like the genome is complete. It's like you're complete. Do you realize how complete you are? Go and
Mhm.
check out your components. And I'm hearing your artillery, your tools, your art capillaries, your
Mhm.
artfulness, your access to creation that's within you. That's your vein, your vascular system.
Yeah. And you were saying sand, and I was seeing like, first of all, I had this reference down to dune and gold dust and what that means and what element that is and why it's been used, because people were looking for something outside of themselves to make themselves get to where they thought they needed to go, because they were unable to access that deeper layer in the epidermis to go beyond that, into that layer. They felt like they had to ingest gold, or they had to do this because they lost. I'm hearing, you lost that love and feeling, like, of like being able to feel into that greater composure, that greater composition, because they felt like there was just this, well, there was a gap. They couldn't get through the hallway. It's like, I can't get to that next level, so I have to add this to myself, not realizing they are the gold. They are the gold within the dust, within the
Member, gold member.
gold member. Exactly. And then also I was seeing sand when you were saying, I was seeing sand castle, which took me back to Arthur.
Yeah.
So, hold that thought. I'm just going to pause for just a moment.
Business.
So, we have to end, but we were just like, how do we want to end this? And because I paused it for a moment, and it's like, it's never ending, really. But we were talking about the mining. You'd mentioned like mining for gold, right? And I think we've talked about this before, mining for a heart of gold. It's minding, being mindful, and feeling full within our own self, not searching and needing to direct our attention and our thoughts elsewhere. And I'm hearing elsewhere, like come back into Elsa, like the
And
frozen. But you were saying too, minding your own business.
and mining within your own business.
Yeah. Which is partly, I was hearing busybody. So what
And the
happens?
busybody also is pinging me on be busy in your own body. And
Yeah.
it's like the bodies, all the layers within.
Mhm.
So, and then now I'm hearing be busy embodying.
Yeah, I love that. And then I'm hearing embodiment, and it meant the mint, embodiment, like you're
Mint.
minting your own value, and you're putting a stamp on it, a time stamp, which says, this is here in the now, in this now moment. I am tuning into this greater body of awareness, indivisibility, indivisible.
This is we're in the gold rush right now. And this is the message I've been getting for like I think it's been at least 2 weeks about we're in the wild, wild west, but this is actually the first time the gold rush has come up. So we're literally in new territory within our own self, right? And that's pinging off of Gene Key 21, the territories. This is
Mhm.
our own territory. We're in new territory. We are the final frontier. We are the promised land that we need to get in ourselves, because we are the goal. We're the gold rush. We're what we need to be mining within, but we are what is actually being mined. We are being mined by our reality. We're being siphoned, mined. We're the land that wants to be conquered. So we have to conquer ourselves. We have to commandeer our ship, because it's been commandeered back to that flow from 2 years ago. It is
Mm-hmm.
time to get in to our skin suit. It's time to be here now. There's no fight or flight. We take flight by just being, by just landing. It's time to land. And
Yeah.
that's the airport. We're taking off by coming in. And there's no fear. Like, it's like the G-force. It's like, what am I feeling? I feel like I'm going out there. It's like, no, you're coming in. You're
Yeah.
landing. This is the ascending time where
Yeah.
we come in and we really wake up and we turn all the lights on in our own system. And it changes everything. It's a total game changer. Once we're
And
on, that's it.
yeah. And I was hearing counterforce. So part of what you're talking about is this is countering the force that we feel, the force field that we feel that many people have believed in, that have created, that is the us versus them kind of belief system. And again, that is a version of reality that isn't necessarily something I'm going to ignore, but I'm also recognizing that that is a version of reality that no longer fits my suit.
I'm seeing it flaking off like dead skin cells.
Yeah.
We're exfoliating it. We're
Mhm.
literally shedding it off.
And
And
so we're countering the spin
yeah,
by us going within and finding our own home base, right? That's what it's all about right now. And that's what it's all about in general. But I mean, right now, so I just want to share two things. I pulled two cards right before we got going. And the cards that I pulled, the one was Council Fire, which is decisions. And the other one is ideas and needs manifested, field of plenty. And this is what we're talking about, is the fields of plenty. These are my Native American cards, which I love. But we have, our ideas and needs are being manifested. So we have everything that we need, but we have to recognize what our idea is of what we need.
idea, your ID, yeah, your idea that is like one with your ID,
Mhm.
your identification, your true self, ID.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would look up that, but because it brings me into like, I'm sure it's a name of God or something. Like,
Mhm.
yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, that's that spin on language and letters and words that represents the greater field that we're encased within from one perspective. But oh my goodness, we could just keep going like for days. So, in love and light, you guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll just hit record, so hang out just for a second, or I'll hit stop record. But thank you guys so much for just sharing in this space with us and feeling into what it is that we're sharing and offering, and recognizing that we all have our own way of expression. And this is just what we like to share as our way of expression, which is fun for us and expansive. So thanks for playing with us and tuning into this field of plenty. Namaste, you guys.